broadcast, your voice, your future. A. Scott Bolden, we welcome him back to the lineup. Always good to see my friend A. Scott Bolden. Darshaun McAway, who is a best-selling author and businessman. Welcome to your first time on the broadcast. And Dave Spencer, everybody's new. He's a rider, everybody but old Scott Bolden. He's been around for centuries, but anyhow, he's my man. Scott, let me raise this with you. How much was a blow to the Me Too movement when our brother, and I said it right, our brother, Bill Cosby, was released from prison on a technicality?
Well, it seems like from the media coverage that it motivated the Me Too movement. There's been a lull in like the vocal Me Too movement and the number of cases out there. But the reality is that I don't think it was a blow to anyone. I think it was the law. There are two opinions that we're going to live with for the rest of our life. There's the legal opinion that said he never should have been tried and that they pulled the carpet from under him and a deal's a deal, basically. The public opinion and the women that he negatively impacted based on his bad and poor conduct, that group of people, not only the victims, but also the public opinion will always be that once the horse is out of the barn, we know that you gave them drugs, we know that what the allegations are, and we know what under oath you admitted doing or not doing. And so I think we're going to have to live with those two buckets of opinion.
You know, Dave, it's almost as if we have a mob sense of justice now. It doesn't matter what the court is. It doesn't matter what the facts are. Hang them, hang them, hang them. It doesn't matter. We'll deal with everything after that. But if I'm emotionally upset and I'm emotionally mad, then our emotions should rule the day. Forget about the rule of law.
Well, in this case, I think it was pretty cut and dry. I would say it's analogous to somebody searching your house and then you get to court and they don't have a search warrant. You know, it was just legal protocol that wasn't followed. So whether or not you think he was guilty, irrespective of that, the legal protocol was not followed, Armstrong. So to me, this is a pretty cut and dry case. And I think as far as the Me Too movement goes, I think it was very useful initially because it really brought down a lot of people like Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose and people that probably deserved it. But then again, when you get into something that's only based on allegations like Brett Kavanaugh, then I think you're going into some dangerous waters.
Darshaun, what have been the flaws and the weaknesses of the Me Too movement? Why do you think they've all of a sudden reached the law and they really appear to be searching for some kind of identity now?
Oh, it's all the allegations and just simply being accused. You have to really hold people to the fire. A lot of women are, making a lot of allegations, and like the Hafiz situation, he was out with this young lady. She didn't like the way it was going, and then later on, she told him what she felt uncomfortable with. So the Me Too movement, it had a lot of gas at first, but now it's starting to slow down because a lot of people are starting to wonder, like, most of these women, when you come up with these allegations, is it really true what that person did?
Scott, you're a well-respected lawyer all around the world. You almost have to be careful to make the statement I'm about to make. I don't have a problem making it, by the way. It's that women lie. They deceive. Now, the majority of them, you can say maybe telling the truth, but listen, people lie, women lie, they have their own agenda, and sometimes this Me Too movement have destroyed people for no reason at all.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that.
That's okay. That's why we're here, to have a debate about it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's
What is it that you don't agree with?
I don't agree that people's lives were destroyed unnecessarily by the Me Too movement.
I said some.
There's some.
Yeah.
I don't believe that because as a lawyer and as a managing partner of a large law firm, and having represented many people who have either been accused or been victimized, and as a former sex crimes prosecutor, I think every case stands on its own. And if someone's life is destroyed Well, there's more than one life that's destroyed with these types of allegations. When I say the cases stand on their own, what I mean is that I believe women ought to be believed, but I think the accused ought to be believed if he or she denies it. And then it's not a credibility war. Then we look at the facts. We look at what we can corroborate. We look at what she said and when she said it. And each case is very different. Men lie and women lie. And part of my job as a prosecutor or criminal defense lawyer is to figure out what's more likely than less likely, and what are the repercussions of that as a defense lawyer as well as a prosecutor. You know, a lot of these cases go away because of credibility issues, or the victim, male or female, doesn't want to go forward. When there's a prior relationship between two people, it's all rooted, those on the third party, those on the outside are just expressing their opinion, because who knows what really occurred between people in a private relationship, whether it was sexual or not, whether it was forced or not. And it has to be investigated, especially these high profile matters. So I don't think you can put them all in one bucket.
But you know, Dave Spencer, one man's life can be destroyed with a simple allegation. No proof is necessary. Once it's out there, some people never recover. Is there anything that we can do about that? Because listen, I actually thought that we lived in a country where you are innocent until proven guilty. But that doesn't seem to matter anymore. You're guilty once you're accused, and then you have to prove that you're not guilty. And the damage is done, Dave.
That's not right, but go right ahead.
I want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead.
Things about our justice system. You are innocent until proven guilty. So I think the balancing act is when women make these allegations, they have to be heard and they have to be taken seriously. And I believe that can be done without, and this is where to me the movement goes off the rails, is because a lot of times people are going for a character assassination here, and once that comes out, then they take the ball and run with it. But if it's done properly, yes, everyone should be heard, but let's wait until the facts come out. And again, I keep going back to Brett Kavanaugh, but when those facts came out and the allegations were so flimsy, and then it really didn't stand much metal.
Darshaun, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way, but you know, unknown, insignificant people that you've never heard of before can come to the limelight, get their story out, and charge anyone without proof. Even unknowns get their days in court without ever being vetted, have no reputation, no one knows anything about them. Now, Scott just said, I believe you should believe the woman. I don't believe that. I should believe it should be proven. Darshaun?
Yeah, so listen, see, this is a very touchy subject. I understand where you're coming from, and I do believe certain people do need to be believed, but you have to tread that water very lightly. You have to find out, you have to really do some probing questions to find out what exactly did this person do. It always seems like most men get thrown under the fire when it comes to a woman making any type of allegations, and then, like you said, his career, his livelihood is ruined. And some of the women, they never reap the repercussions of getting in trouble. It's like, you can accuse me of doing something, you know, you bring me up from out of the limelight and you say, hey, this guy did this to me, now you ruin this guy, and then that woman, she moves on with her life, and this guy is trying to figure out, who am I now? You know, so I'm very familiar with this type of situation, which is why I wrote the book, Say Hello to Me. I would much rather have men have women approach them to give them the option to say, no, I don't want to speak to you. You're not what I want. You're not what I'm interested in, versus it being the other way.
Tell us a little more about what you learned from writing your book.
So, you know, back in 2009, this book right here, Say Hello to Me, became a bestseller. I was just trying to get to the youth before they got a little bit older. I found out from my research that most of the young men and women, when they come from broken households, they have a tendency to have a little bit of entitlement, or I want what I see, but what I see doesn't want me. So I was trying to get more men and women to be a little bit more self-aware of what do you feel like your respect level is. And when you know what your respect level is, you will respect the next person as well.
Scott, I thought I heard you trying to say something. Or was that just, that was you? Go ahead.
No. here, I was going to try to agree with you one of the rare times. Here's the tough part as a manager, right? And the tough part for me as a man. Listen, no woman should be touched if she doesn't want to be touched. No one should force themselves on a woman. The tough situations come when, if you're working with someone and you ask them out and they reject you, and then they get turned over, and then they get reported to HR for merely asking you out. I'm not sure how the guy is supposed to know that you don't want to be asked out without asking you, or that you have conversations with women in the workplace or outside of the workplace, and it's a conversation that made them feel uncomfortable. They never say you've made them feel uncomfortable, and years later they reported in a public setting or even in a law enforcement setting that he had this lewd conversation with me and it made me feel uncomfortable. Those are the parts of the Me Too movement that get tough, because even if you investigate them, how is the guy to know that he was doing something inappropriate, if you will? What if they're both drinking or drugging, and then sex occurs or short of sex occurs, and the next morning that the guy is fine with what happened that night and the young woman isn't? Where's the line of demarcation between heavy petting or rape if they're both drinking and both drugging voluntarily? These are the tough parts of the Me Too movement, and I don't have a good answer, but all of them need to be investigated, and both of them probably ought to be believed, and then it comes down to corroboration. That's what I wanted to say.
And we also know that lawyers are very good at getting you to remember things that never really happened. Oh, that sounds right. Oh, that's beginning to make sense. I'm beginning to understand now. Yes, that's exactly what happened. Yes, that's what happened to me. I saw this on TV, and all of a sudden my memory came back. Yes, that's my story.
I can be very persuasive.
Yeah, lawyers. That's part of the problem. We'll be back. Darshaun, it's interesting you wrote this book. Talk about the impact that social media has had in making people wanting to come out, giving them comfort, the Me Too hashtag. And it's sort of like social media led the way.
Yeah, I mean, social media has been a very key in today's time. I'm glad a lot of people get a chance to tell other people like what happened to them, what makes them feel uncomfortable, so men can learn how to treat women better and vice versa. But one of the biggest things I've started to notice too now, there has been a lot of same-sex sexual harassments as well. So I'm glad everyone's getting that voice to tell their own personal story. I think that's the biggest thing. People want to be heard. They want to tell their story. They want to live out their truth.
Let me go back to Dave Spencer. Dave, what is the result that we want to come out of this Me Too movement that would make us better, all of us, men and women? Because listen, to me, I feel sometimes that women talk just as much trash, makes just as many passes at men as men make towards women. I mean, women are not some innocent flowers in all of this. I mean, they can be just as aggressive as anybody else. And I think oftentimes men who are men would never want to say that a woman sexually harassed them because they would feel that's not being a man. But these things happen.
So I think that really what we're looking for here, Armstrong, is fairness. And I think that can be achieved. I think the woman can be heard, and I also think the man can feel that he's had a chance to defend himself and hasn't been guilty until proven innocent. And I think social media is a blessing, but it's also a dual-edged sword, because it's very easy to get your story out there to the world. And sometimes people do it. It's that old saying, if you're going to write an email to someone, write it the night before and then wait till the morning before you send it. And chances are you'll say, thank God I didn't send that. Whereas people are very impetuous when they go on social media. And so they may say things, or not necessarily that are false, but perhaps say them in the way that they don't want to say them. So But again, I think fairness, and I think that's achievable. I think it is possible to have it both ways here.
You know, Scott, there was this woman, a mother, who was, a video went viral on social media. She was in a spa with many other women and their young girls, their young daughters, and a transgender man decided to take everything off, and he had a pistol. He was carrying a pistol. And the women were shocked, they were offended, but yet when they went to the attendant to complain, they said their laws could not deny this person access because they said they were a biological man. You know, as part of this Me Too movement, do we also protect women and also protect children and little girls? How far can this go? And yet, when this woman cried out on social media, in the beginning, there were thousands of people hating her because their attitude was, isn't it something your kid or something you've seen before? But you understand how traumatizing this could be to a child. Where does this all go? Where does it lead?
Well, I think these are the risks. These are risks associated with the laws in protecting transgender and gay and lesbian individuals who are citizens, and the law protects them. The Supreme Court has said that their identity that they identify with is to be recognized, and to not recognize it is a violation of their rights, if you will. And so I'm not going to go deep into the whole legal entanglements there, but those are the risks. Now, I would think that what should come out of the Me Too movement, and even what you described, is better behavior on both sides. I would hope that. Clearly a transgendered man, and that's who he identifies with, and that's who he is anatomically, then he's free to do and to use those bathrooms and what have you. But there is a level of reasonableness. As described in the video that I saw, I could see the trauma, if you will, but we are going to have to talk to our kids about these kinds of realities, because these are our new realities in this country, and we're a land of rights and laws, and we have to respect them, whether it's Bill Cosby, who never should have been tried, it is the law of the land, or whether it's transgendered, who are transgendered men using men rooms or female bathrooms. These are our new realities, and I gotta tell you, a lot of kids see a lot of stuff on the internet right now, so they may or may not be traumatized, but both sides have to be reasonable, but more importantly, we've got to start talking to each other and to our kids about these new realities so they are not traumatized, if you will.
Darshaun, what was your goal? What did you hope to achieve when you were writing your book? And what surprised you the most about the feedback from the book?
So, you know, my overall goal, especially when I got married, was to have parents spend more time with their children, just like Mr. Bolden said, so we could teach our children better behavior. So I had wrote some best-selling children's books so parents can spend more time. And because we are living in a new age, we're living in a new time where certain things are going on that we're not used to, that our kids are going to be growing up into. So I just wanted people, I know there's a way to slow down the misbehavior. It'll never stop. But I do feel like if you spend more time as a parent or a guardian with your children, trust me, they'll come out a little bit better.
You know, I'm not so sure whether or not children should lose their innocence at such a young age, because we have to adjust them to the behavior of adults and what may be going on in a bathroom. I think part of the problem is now, and I think someone mentioned it, Scott, they're exposed to too much on the internet. And it brings about different challenges, not only for parents, but for the classroom and for larger society. Dave, how much is enough? Shouldn't children have a right to keep their innocence and to be children?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, I don't think someone, frankly, is qualified to know what their gender is when they're 8 years old. You know, people go through a lot of experimenting. They go through different phases. And the idea that someone can have switch genders before puberty, to me, is just ghastly. So I think a lot of it does start with parenting, and a lot of it does start by setting a good example. I think when people are gay, they certainly know it at a relatively young age, but most people I know who are gay even if they knew it when they were very young, they didn't come out until they were at least in their teens because they wanted to make sure that that was who they were.
You know, Scott, you know, everyone seems to, if you look at the Cosby situation, the Harvey Weinstein and others, you know, there were those that were very slow to criticize Harvey Weinstein, even those that were victims of his. And even after they went through this trauma, they still returned to him, they continued in the friendship. And it wasn't until someone called them out in the media and they saw these stories, they decided to come out full force. What about the hypocrisy of Hollywood? They sort of cherry pick whom they want to be outraged about, and yet they want to be silent on everything else. What about the principle of the matter?
Well, let me also address your guess about gay and transgendered. We're going to disagree whether it's a choice or whether you're born that way, but because I've got a daughter that's a lesbian, I can tell you she was born that way. She didn't have much choice in it. And several other, in my experience, would argue that they were born that way, that they don't have a choice, whether it's transgendered or being gay. And so that debate will go on. But I think most gay people and transgender people would say they didn't have a choice in it and they knew it at an early age. I saw it myself in my daughter, who I love dearly, who never had to come out to me. The selection or the choice of who they're going to put up for scrutiny in Hollywood and otherwise is something you've got to peel through. If you really listen to the allegations against Cosby, for example, the allegations against Cosby, some of those women were partying with Cosby. Some of them were voluntarily taking drugs. Not all, but some were. And then whatever happened after they passed out or didn't pass out, you know, he was being scrutinized about that. And some of those women testified against him at the criminal trial. I think fundamentally that's got to be scrutinized by the court. And the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania didn't get to the question of whether those women, their testimony was admitted inappropriately, because they so chose to dismiss it outright and vacate that judgment. But you know, these social settings and what you can do and not do, and whether you can be scrutinized or prosecuted for these social pieces, then you're gonna have to prosecute a lot of people.
I mean, Scott,
you know,
I mean, you're gonna have to prosecute. You're gonna have to prosecute a lot of people. But you know what?
Yeah.
I appreciate you, Dave, Darshaun. Thank you for writing that book. Our earlier guest that joined us. And I want to thank you, WJLA 24/7, and your voice, your future, Greg Masani, Aiden King, and the great team here. Thank you again for joining us for another edition of Your Voice, Your Future. It continues with you, the conversation.